Breaking news. Max Verstappen has lashed out at Red Bull, blaming their choice to forgo a low-drag rear wing for his struggles at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Lando Norris candidly admitted that his 2024 title hopes were derailed early in the season. In other news, Lewis Hamilton revealed his frustration after qualifying 10th in Las Vegas, claiming he should have been on pole position. Welcome to F1 Real Time. Don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Max Verstappen's road to securing his fourth consecutive Formula One World Championship at the Las Vegas Grand Prix has hit a speed bump. The Dutchman will start the race from fifth on the grid, hampered by Red Bull's lack of a dedicated low-downforce rear wing, a decision rooted in strategic choices dating back to 2022. Red Bull's RB20 struggled at the Las Vegas Strip circuit, where long straights demand a streamlined setup to minimize drag. Without a specialized low-downforce rear wing in their arsenal, Red Bull mechanics were forced to strip back their standard wings to reduce drag without compromising structural integrity. Verstappen, who finished qualifying 0.5 seconds behind pole-sitter Charles Leclerc, admitted that the absence of a more efficient wing design severely handicapped their performance. "We opted to not make one. We don't have one. So this is already from 2022. Would I like to have a lower downforce wing? Yeah, for sure. But it's something that we'll look at. On the other hand, there's only one more year left with these rules, and I don't know if it makes sense." The Las Vegas circuit's nearly 2-kilometer straight between turns 12 and 14 amplified Red Bull's aerodynamic disadvantage, as it had earlier in the season at Monza, where both Verstappen and teammate Sergio Perez struggled to break into the top six. Despite a tough start to the weekend, Verstappen praised his team's efforts to claw back some of the deficit after being over a second off the pace in Friday's practice sessions. "Yesterday, I think we were more than a second off, and today that's a little bit less. I also really feel like we optimized it as a team. Of course, still too slow, but I think more than half of that is already just on the straight. So that is just something that there's nothing that you can do." Verstappen acknowledged that his P5 result in qualifying was the best they could achieve under the circumstances, noting that fortune played a role with Lewis Hamilton's failure to set a lap in Q3. "P5 is the result. I think we really maximized what we could." While qualifying exposed Red Bull's vulnerabilities, Verstappen is cautiously optimistic that race day conditions could mitigate the damage. With DRS less of a factor during the race, Verstappen hopes the playing field will level out. Naturally, of course, the wing is not the most efficient, but hopefully, with everyone having DRS closed, it's a little bit better, he explained. In the race, when you try to pass people, you have less of an effect, so that will be a bit more difficult. But yeah, hopefully, we're just decent on tires. Verstappen's long runs in practice were less than ideal, but adjustments to the car setup could provide better tire management over the race distance. Despite the setbacks, Verstappen's grid position still puts him ahead of his nearest title rival, Lando Norris, who starts 6th. If Verstappen finishes ahead of Norris, he will seal the championship in Las Vegas, a fitting end to a season marked by dominance. "It's nice today," Verstappen said of his qualifying result, "but it's more important tomorrow." Red Bull's decision not to develop a low-downforce rear wing reflects the compromises enforced by F1's budget cap, with priorities shifting to other areas of development. While this choice may have cost them competitiveness in Las Vegas and Monza, it highlights the difficult balancing act teams face in a tightly regulated sport. Meanwhile, the 2024 Formula One season has been a rollercoaster for Lando Norris, who emerged as the only real contender against Max Verstappen's domination. As the Las Vegas Grand Prix approaches, the odds of Norris overturning Verstappen's commanding lead are slim. But the McLaren driver remains proud of his efforts in a season that saw him secure his maiden F1 victory and challenge the Dutchman like no other. The year began as many expected, with Verstappen and Red Bull continuing their dominance. But in Miami, the script changed. Norris claimed his first career win, marking a turning point for McLaren and injecting new life into the championship battle. From that moment on, the 24-year-old Briton became Verstappen's primary rival, trading blows on track and chipping away at the points deficit. Yet, as the Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend unfolds, it's clear the gap is too great to overcome. Verstappen stands on the cusp of clinching his fourth consecutive World Drivers' Championship, needing only to finish ahead of Norris to seal the title. Despite the uphill battle, Norris is taking pride in his role as Verstappen's primary challenger. "I mean, I'm the one they're fighting Max. So I'm proud that it's me and not anyone else." While Norris remains mathematically in the fight, he admits the outcome was largely determined in the opening races of the season, where Verstappen and Red Bull established a dominant lead. "Do I wish we could have gone a bit further down the line? Sure. But the race was lost in the first 6 races of the year. That's when Max dominated. It's when Red Bull were too far ahead, and the points got to a gap which was too difficult to claw back. McLaren's resurgence began in earnest after the Chinese Grand Prix, where Norris stood fifth in the championship with just 58 points to Verstappen's 110. As the team refined their car, Norris found himself in more competitive machinery, allowing him to capitalize on Red Bull's occasional vulnerabilities. Even so, the deficit proved insurmountable. Verstappen's consistency and Red Bull's superior performance in the early rounds created a buffer too large for Norris to close. It took several more races for McLaren to truly find its footing in order to mount a challenge. By that point, the battle was still definitively in Verstappen's favor. For the penultimate race of the season, Norris and Verstappen find themselves sharing the third row on the grid, with Verstappen qualifying fifth and Norris sixth. The Briton knows he'll need more than just race pace to prolong the championship fight. Despite the likelihood of Verstappen clinching the title, Norris remains optimistic and focused on the positives from the season. "I'm proud. I'm happy we brought it this far, and it's us, no one else." Meanwhile, the Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend delivered mixed fortunes for Mercedes. George Russell put in a stellar performance to take pole position, but Lewis Hamilton's qualifying session was marred by errors that left the seven-time world champion down in 10th. Mercedes showed strong form throughout qualifying, with the W15 proving particularly competitive on the Las Vegas circuit. Hamilton started the session brightly, finishing less than half a tenth behind Russell in Q1 and then setting the fastest time in Q2 with a 1 minute 32 seconds and 567 milliseconds, narrowly ahead of Ferrari's Carlos Sainz. Heading into Q3, Hamilton was tipped as a serious contender for pole position. However, his first flying lap unraveled when a mistake at turn 9 saw the rear of his car lose grip, forcing him into the escape road. The misstep left him scrambling back to the pits for fresh tires. His second attempt ended in similar frustration. Negotiating the long right-hander at turn 2, Hamilton once again struggled with rear instability, costing him crucial time and leaving him without a competitive lap in Q3. "I just didn't do the job," Hamilton admitted after the session. "The car felt different in Q3, and the stability was not there for some reason. But ultimately, I didn't put the laps together." Hamilton's struggles meant he could only manage 10th on the grid, while Russell stormed to pole with a 1 minute 32 seconds and 3 milliseconds lap. Adding to Hamilton's frustration, his Q2 time if replicated in Q3 would have secured him third on the grid. Hamilton pointed to a wrong call on tire strategy as the root of his issues, explaining that his decision to do a prep lap contributed to his struggles in Q3. "The tires were difficult. That's why we did a prep lap. And that was the wrong call to do a prep lap on my side," he said. Then it kind of domino effected from there. The Briton also noted that track conditions improved rapidly towards the end of the session, a factor he couldn't fully exploit due to the rear instability that emerged during Q3. "It had been really good up until then. Obviously, you saw my pace, and then in Q3, it just started snapping away," he explained.